Here we are. Good morning. Another episode of College Coffee Talk. This is the show where we talk about all things college, getting into college, paying for college, perhaps considering why you might not even want to go to college. What's the value of college? It's all about college news and opinion that you can use. I'm Andy Lockwood, and joined by my lovely wife, Pearl Lockwood. Is it?
It still is, yes.
Okay.
Hi, everybody.
We've met.
We have.
Okay, good. So we have a pretty timely show for you this morning. We're going to be talking about the surprising news about the FAFSA. I was surprised by it, which is pending. Let's see. What's today's
19th,
date?
November 19th.
Today is the 18th.
Right.
You're not wrong. You're just early.
Just ahead of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so that is coming. The new and improved FAFSA, we think, release is pending. And I also want to share some thoughts and observations on the early deadlines that we just got through with people with their common applications, their essays, supplemental essays, because if you have a rising, a class of 2026, current 11th grader, rising 12th grader, or someone younger, I want to give you some tips that sometimes fall on deaf ears, but I think will be helpful to keep in the back of your mind. So before we get into the show, we'd like to start off with our typical and somewhat annoying synchronized sip of coffee or whatever you're drinking. 1, 2, 3. Good morning.
If this annoys you, you need to get out, Warren. This shouldn't annoy you.
It kind of annoys me. So say hi in the comments in the chat, just so we know that we're coming in loud and clear. And if you have questions, we will be taking them either live or on replay. If you're watching this on another platform like YouTube or listening to this on our podcast, obviously we're not going to be seeing your questions posted on the podcast, but you could always lob them in on our email address, which is vip@lockwoodcollegeprep.com. That's going to be everywhere you would see this. So I guess before we get into the FAFSA, let me just share quickly some comments about the early deadline. So it's our practice with the clients that we work with one-on-one to try to get them to do all of the essay writing and common application filling out, which, by the way, is not that hard. The hard part might be the activity section. But anyway, get all that stuff done over the summer before school starts for a few reasons. One, it's just better, for peace of mind. Number two, senior year is hard. Senior year might be actually harder than 11th grade. That's a bit of a spoiler alert, but I just want to tell people who have 11th graders and younger kids that you don't really get to coast your senior year of high school until second half. And even that's, not really, I would say, coasting, but you can take your foot off the accelerator. But still, if you let things drag, even though you do some work over the summer, you can start to let work pile up in the fall, because, again, the academic component of what you're doing in high school is I would say significant, and then extracurricular stuff, and then finalizing your college list and dealing with all the social things and athletic things and other clubs and performance things that the kids do. It gets really, really busy. So we still had this year a handful, I would say, of kids who were working right up until the deadline. I received a text from one of our clients, I think after 6 p.m. on the 15th, which was her early action deadline for one of her colleges. I didn't see it until the next day. I said, by the way, I'm not great with same day deadlines. And she said, I know, it's my fault. I know. But specifically, one of the things I want you to look out for is in the situation where if you're applying to college and you have a deadline and you get everything in, but you are also perhaps applying to the honors college, or you are submitting some sort of portfolio for either performing arts or for other artistic type majors like fine arts, you might also have essays or additional responses that are due that you didn't see before, that are also due on that deadline for the main application. So we had that with a client of ours. I think she was applying to Duke that had a November 1st deadline, and everything was fine because she'd worked very diligently on her essays, and those were done well in advance. But she waited until the day before to apply to hit the button, and then she realized, because she's also a possible pending music major, that she had an additional 1 or 2 responses to do. So try to get a handle on this stuff way in advance. Do not leave the actual pressing of the button until the last minute. That's one of the reasons I just outlined. But another reason is, things go wrong. We have tech outages. The Common App could go down because during peak periods, because everyone's trying to apply at the same time. We've had hurricanes rip through when we used to have the business in Florida, and we also had it up here when we moved up
Andy,
here. Yeah. So you can't leave until the last minute.
I'd like to add one other comment on this. Okay. The other reason you really want to try to get all of this work done early, not where it's infiltrating your senior year effort, is because in our practice and our experience, we have seen admissions decisions actually turn on that fall senior semester grades midway. For example, let's just say we've seen this year after year. If you have a student who is, in the running for school, and then their senior fall semester grades in one direction, either they drop because they're so overwhelmed with all of the application work that has to be done, that their grades drop, and then the school it has this kid kind of in between, yay or nay, makes a request of the guidance counselor to see mid-semester grades. If the grades are great, what we've seen is a positive response. If the grades are not, we have seen the rejection come shortly after that request is made. So arguably, that fall semester of your senior year maybe is even more important than the other 3 years.
Yeah, it can take on more importance if you get deferred.
Right.
A lot of early applications are deferred because colleges, because of all the marketing they're doing, because of the test optional policies, because of the rise in popularity of the Common application, which lets you apply to 20 colleges basically at the same time. But colleges are getting more applications per college, but they're not hiring more admissions personnel to review these applications. So instead of the early application process, which is designed to make things "quote unquote" less stressful, for the kids, it actually becomes more stressful because some colleges defer 50% or up to 80% of their applicants.
And then the student is not sure, was I deferred because they didn't have enough time to review my application, or was I deferred because I may not be a worthy candidate?
Yeah.
You don't know. You won't know.
Most people never realize that it could be because they didn't have enough time.
Right.
They assume the latter, which is that it's not good news to be deferred. It's actually neutral news. It's not bad.
Nowadays it is.
Yeah.
True.
So, all right. Good morning to Adriana Marique or Marike. If I have no idea how to pronounce that one. To Jesus. Maria says she's still alive.
Yay.
How do I know it's really you? How do I know that your phone wasn't hacked? And we need a code word. And Dina, good morning to you. If you guys have any questions, lob them in. Let's turn to what I consider to be very surprising news about the FAFSA.
Well, we'll see how it actually bears out. But as of right now, the FAFSA, which was delayed from a typical October 1st rollout, looks like it is going to be on time with the December 1st rollout. What the initial response has been, there was a beta test of this 25-26 year FAFSA. There was a beta test where maybe some 600 or so FAFSAs were sent off and processed. I'm sure it was more than that, but processed successfully. The schools were able to receive the information, receive the substantive information. That was actually the substantive information, because last year there was an issue with what information was put in was not what was coming out on the other side.
Yeah, well, that's what's so funny, because it's a beta test, but it's the second cycle with it, because they brought in someone from the college.
So would that be like a Delta test? Or?
I
don't know where we go.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know what to see.
What they brought in, what this reminds me of, it's like, Trump bringing in, like, Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk to do this whole, government
Clean up of the garbage.
Yeah, so that's what happened with the FAFSA, which is that they rolled out a new FAFSA last year, and it was a total disaster because number one, they redid the formula, which wasn't such a big deal, although it was punitive. We weren't fans of the new formula. But the second thing was they overdid the whole platform that it had been working off of for like 30 to 40 years or something. And it was a total disaster. So now they brought in someone from the College Board,
right,
which I've been musing to you over the last year. I was like, well, the College Board makes the CSS profile, and that has 200 to 300 questions. Why does that never have problems being updated? Whereas the FAFSA, which has like 70 questions, what's the big deal? So now we think it's going to be, right, you feel reasonably cautiously optimistic?
I feel cautiously optimistic that on December 1st, I'm going to be very, 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 very busy submitting FAFSAs, because hopefully with no incident. It's almost like the Department of Education is trying to demonstrate that they are worthwhile and should not be disbanded. Well, it's good that the Department of Education is going to get this right. We'll see.
Pounding. Yeah.
We'll see. Got to show your worth these days.
Well, since you are the presumptive cabinet nominee for the Department of Education, which I think is a good time to disclose that, A, do you think the department will be around in the near future? And B,
yes.
Let's talk about why people should file for financial aid too. But any inside idea on whether the Department of Ed is going to be retired by Vivek and Elon?
I don't know that the Department of Education will be entirely retired. Education's kind of the big thing in this country. But it may not be quite as fluffy as it is now, and that's a good thing.
I'm sure we've talked about this before. I love when, I don't love when there's a government shutdown, but I love that when there's a government shutdown, they say, the government's shutting down, we need more money, we're only going to be employing essential employees.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
well,
so what about the non-essentials? Why do they even have jobs?
Right.
So that's my
whose nephew is that?
That's my feeling about the Department of Ed. There was this huge cluster F that caused all of these problems last year, which resulted in something like 1 million fewer filings, and a lot of people who need money couldn't get it because of the screw ups. So it really hurt the population that was.
They must have fired so many people.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, all those people who were held accountable.
Well, they did reassign somebody. They didn't fire him, but they reassigned. I think it was Richard.
So he still has his pension and his salary and everything. I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure that the people who don't do their jobs are still getting made whole for some reason I can't figure out.
I really can't comment on that. You're the presumptive nominee. You shouldn't really be talking about this.
You're right.
It's going to be a very long vetting process for Secretary Pearl, Secretary of Education Pearl.
Yeah.
Okay. So why should you? Let's say you think there's no way you're going to qualify for any type of aid. Why should you fill out the FAFSA, free application for federal student aid? Nice. FAFSA, not FASFA. No. Some people call it FASFA. That's
not
dumb.
FAFSA.
Dumb. Yeah. Not FAFSA, not FASFA. FAFSA. So why should someone file even if they think they're not going to qualify for aid? And not just limited to the FAFSA, but any applications that are required by the colleges.
Okay, so I can come up with 2 reasons off the top of my head. Number 1, so while you may not qualify for need-based aid, you may be in a position where you don't have the funds to finance college nonetheless, and you may want to avail yourself of taking loans out, parent and student loans, which between the combination of a student and parent loan, you can actually borrow the entire cost of attendance for every year, for each year, and it's awarded on an annual basis. Cost of attendance is room, board, and tuition and fees. It's the whole thing. So that's one reason. You want to preserve your right to obtain loans. Another really important reason is if you do not show need eligibility, well, then you're, by contrast, potentially demonstrating financial strength. So what does that mean from a financial aid standpoint? Maybe not much, but from an admission standpoint, that could be very favorable to that applicant, because now the school has been signaled through that financial aid application that they are not need eligible, and therefore they are a full pay entity, which is attractive to a college because approximately 25% of the families subsidize the other 75% of any given class. So they need that 25%. But now this is going to seem a little counterintuitive. In order to get or to induce that 25% to want to come to your school and be part of that paying crowd, oddly, that school may offer a financial discount to some extent, be it, we're going to offer you $15,000 a year for the next 4 years, total of 60 grand off the price, just to have your family come. So you've essentially done two things. In merit money. So you've done two things. You've potentially put yourself in. I have a third reason you're going to apply for.
Well, that is the third reason.
No, I have.
You said you had two, but that was three.
You're right. That is the third. That's right. Many schools require the filing of financial aid forms just to be considered for merit aid.
Well, that's four. You came up with four. One was for loans.
Yes.
2 was to show financial strength.
Yes.
3 was to get merit aid.
Yep.
And 4 because it might be required for merit aid.
Right.
I listen, honey.
I thought that third one was really 3A, 3B.
No,
okay.
No, I listen to you. I just want you to know. I hear you.
I feel heard. You. I feel seen.
Do you feel seen?
Do.
Good. Okay. Another reason to file is you might be wrong. You might actually qualify.
Right.
And you might knock yourself out of the running just because you have some sort of feeling that's not based on your understanding of the formulas.
Yes.
How they work. So there's a lot of reasons to file. There's very few reasons not to file. Oh, I thought of another reason. I guess this is what, 5? Mm-hmm. Maybe you just like to file stuff. Okay. All right. Any questions? Any comments? Okay. So Jared says good morning. Gary is with us. Heather, Denise, Mackenzie, Sue, Christopher, Michelle, Thomas, Crystal. If you guys have any questions, so this is a good time to lob them in, either live or Memorex. Let's talk about the rest of the process in terms of filing. So let me just get people up to speed. If you have 11th graders or younger, you have to check the financial aid deadlines for every school that you're going to be applying to. Those do not necessarily coincide with the college application deadlines. Jesus, what?
And the place to look for those deadlines is on the college's website, and not necessarily, looking on the CSS profile or some other source. You got to go to, and you don't count on what happened last year either, because what I've certainly seen. Yeah.
You're going on a tangent.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Please.
You do this to me all the
Continue.
time. So back to the timeline. Okay. I'm just trying to keep it simple here, high level, before we get into the details. Which, again, this is also for 11th graders and 10th graders. They're gonna forget a lot of stuff by the time they have to file.
Let's keep it simple.
Great idea. So she's never liked this at home, and I'm never like this off the air. This is a persona that we adopt just for this, just for the show. So you have to look at the deadlines, and you have to adhere to those deadlines. Each school has its own deadline. So there isn't one universal, like tax day. It's April 15th or something. It is different. Every school on your list will have its own individual priority deadline based on how you are applying. If you're applying regular decision, it might be different than if you're applying early action or early decision. But the point is, you got to check it out with each school. Okay. In terms of what you should be doing, understand that what they are looking at in terms of financial aid are your income, but that's from 2 years prior to the kid's graduation. So in other words, if you have someone graduating 2026, they're looking at 2024 income. So as we record this on November 18th, the year of 2024 is practically in the books. If you have someone younger, and there are some strategies that you can implement to lower your income, this is the time to do it.
Yeah. 3
years before. If you have someone graduating 2027, almost 3 years before, and we're in 2024. So my point is that this should not be a last minute thing either. And I would venture to guess that maybe 5% of families or 10% of families will plan this far in advance before the base year, the year before the base year. So if you have someone younger and you're watching this, that's you're ahead of the curve. Okay. Now, if you have, and we do a whole different presentation on this, if you have money saved in places where it's going to penalize you more than if you shifted it or sheltered it to another place, you don't have to do that 3 or 2 years in advance. You can do that up until the time you file, because the financial aid applications have to be accurate as of the date you file. Okay, so I just wanted to say all that. Now, let's say you file. What happens next? If you've gotten all your applications in by the deadlines, then what?
You mean you've filed all of the appropriate financial aid,
FAFSA, CSS
FAFSA,
profile, whatever.
Right. And the first thing I'll just point out is it depends which forms you file based on the school you're applying to and how you're applying to it, whether it is just the FAFSA that's required, or the FAFSA and the CSS, or the FAFSA, the CSS, and the school's own institutional supplement. A lot of them have that as well.
Well, they'll tell you. So we get progress questions a lot, and I get them sometimes like, well, should we just file the CSS profile to that college? And
doesn't work like that.
You'll be like, no, they don't require it. Yeah.
Right.
You don't choose.
Right, exactly. So once you have filed off the financial aid forms, I call that, even though it feels like, oh, we're done, we sent the forms in, that is actually the beginning of the process. Yeah. It is the first time those schools have been signaled to know that your student is applying to the school, your student is hoping to get a financial aid package, and by the way, if your student, and this is irrespective of whether you are need eligible or not, applies to a school, submits financial aid forms, gets in, that student will receive a financial aid package from that school. It is not the case that, oh, I didn't hear something back, I guess I'm not getting something, or I'm not getting anything. That's not how it works.
Well, that package might be just all loans that
it may be all loans.
Want. You don't have to accept them.
Of course not. It is an offer to you.
But by virtue of filing the FAFSA, you will automatically get a loan from the government. That is your option. Your option to take it on.
That's right. So anyway, you file the forms, and then the schools are signaled in such a way. Then you're going to get requests from the school for potentially additional forms to file based on the substantive information you have put in the application. For example, if you own a business and you've submitted financial aid forms, many schools will require that family to complete what's called a business farm supplement, if you have a business or a farm. And that goes deeper into your business assets, what the business has, percentage of ownership, more than the few questions that are asked about the business on the CSS profile. And then, your financial aid application at that school is going to stay incomplete until those additional forms that are requested get sent in and completed, and those schools can check the box that you sent in everything. In addition, we're going to have to, send forward your tax returns, W-2s, anything else that school wants.
Let me just jump in here to amplify that. So you'll get these notices, and they might be terrifying. They might say something like, your application is not complete, or you're missing information. It's not that you're missing information, or you made a mistake, or that Pearl made a mistake if she's doing your applications for you. It's that's the next step. Right. So you have to monitor what Pearl's getting is. You have to monitor the emails that might be sent to your student also.
Right.
And you to see what else is needed, because if you don't fulfill those additional requirements, then you're not going to receive a financial aid offer, and you might not find that out till it's too late.
Right.
Till it's after, then you find out your kid gets in, because you're filing all this stuff before you know whether your child was accepted or not.
Right.
And then you find out, and then you're like, okay, well, where's my money? Where's my financial aid offer? And then, and only then, is when you learn you didn't fulfill all the requirements. So you got to check your
Don't
emails.
blow off those emails. I do recommend to my clients, because there is a point of overwhelm in this process. And in order to cut back on some of that, I guess you don't want it to take over your life so much that you're checking every single day, emails. You'll get overwhelmed. Right. Pick a time once a week that you and your student can just quickly go through the emails from the last week that have accumulated, get a Google Doc together. Okay, we need to get this to USC, we need to get this to Fairfield, whatever it is. Once a week, that's fine. And that's still considered timely, responsive, etc.
I can just picture people doing this twice a day, but it's good advice.
Thanks.
Yes. All right. Who else here? So
we got some questions.
Got some questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's give them some answers. Christopher, Michelle, Thomas, Crystal. Okay, what is the best time to start doing this? Well, like I said, if you have any way to control your income, like if you're self-employed, you want to try to do it more than 2 years before your base year. But otherwise, it's before you're filing. For the further in time before you file, the better. Adriana, is there a ballpark adjusted gross income needed to qualify for financial aid? Do you want to answer that one?
You can take it.
I'll answer that one. Yes or no? This is like you ordered for dinner at the restaurant.
Yes. The closer your adjusted gross income, which is line 11 of your 1040, your tax return, gets to $200,000 with one student in college, the less likely you're going to qualify for need eligibility.
At a private college.
At a private college.
If you're applying to a public university for federal money, the income is very, very low. It's about $50,000 to $60,000. However, if you're in the state of New York does offer merit aid to families making up to $125,000.
Right.
So there might be state programs, like the state of New York's programs too.
And here's the other thing that's critical that you pay attention to when speculating whether or not you're need eligible at a school. You need to pay attention to what the cost of attendance is at that school. These vary greatly between the schools. For example, Binghamton costs all in approximately probably about $33,000 nowadays. Okay. And well, I'll just take Columbia University in New York. They charge approximately $100,000. That is the cost of attendance at Columbia. So we have Binghamton at $33,000 a year, Columbia at $100,000 a year. If your student aid index, that is the number, when you submit the FAFSA, that is the number that comes out that the federal government has determined your family can pay for 1 year of college. If that number is above the cost of attendance, you're not going to be need eligible at that school. So if your SAI, student aid index, is $60,000 based on your income, your assets, your submitted forms, at Binghamton, which costs $33,000, you are not going to be need eligible. At Columbia, on the other hand, with a cost of attendance of $100,000, you will be demonstrating need of approximately $40,000 at that school. Just wanted to be clear.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you're coming up with something else. All right, we have time for one last question before we wrap up here. This is from Carrie. Will a school renege on previously granted financial aid if our finances have improved? So I'll answer that. So once you submit your application and you receive a financial aid award, that's it. But you reapply for financial aid every year. So if your finances have improved since the time that you put everything down on your financial aid applications and submitted them and then received an award, they won't be reneging you, but they'll be evaluating you on an annual basis.
However, so therefore you haven't actually been awarded something that can be reneged. So it wouldn't be reneged for that year. However, maybe this is what you're getting to. A merit award, on the other hand, which is frequently offered in the admissions letter and will say something like, congratulations, you've been accepted to such and such university, and we are pleased to offer you a merit award of $10,000.
The Chancellor's Scholarship.
Right, for whatever, for $10,000 a year for 4 years. So it's a total of $40,000. And if your student ends up going to school there, that merit award will not be reneged because that's.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else. So yes, and that letter will say, provided that your student has a satisfactory GPA of 2.8 or 3.2 or whatever it is. So it could be reneged, but it's really your student not fulfilling the requirements.
But again, that does not have to do with if your finances changed.
Got it. All right. Well, this was an action-packed, fun-filled episode of College Coffee Talk. If you are watching this on any of our platforms, please like it and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of this information that I can pretty much guarantee you're not getting from your guidance counselor or from any other source at school. Pearl is an invaluable resource on all the financial aid questions and applications, and she prepares financial aid applications for more than 400 families every year. So if you're interested in that type of help, reach out to us, again, wherever you're watching this. And otherwise, we'll see you back here next week on College Coffee Talk. Thanks for joining us.